Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi-Thrawn Alliance. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Luke.
And in today's video, we're doing a different sort of video that could possibly become a podcast. And the discussion will be what we have been watching this week. So we're trying something different. Hopefully you like it. Leave a comment down if you would possibly like this to become a podcast. Definitely want to get into it. So I guess leave a like and subscribe. So, do you want to start off with what you've been watching for this week, Luke?
Yeah, okay. We can take in turns, ask each other questions. I guess we try and work out the format of what it will be like to turn this into a podcast. So, for me, this week, I've watched a few things. So, the first thing I've been watching is a show called Bump, and specifically the second season of Bump. So, Bump's a show that you haven't yet watched, but you said your mum has watched?
Yeah.
Is it something you have interest in watching? Or is there any reason you haven't got around to watching it yet?
I guess it seems okay. From what I watched when Mum was watching it was okay concept. Yeah, I can see why some people would like it.
I think you may like it. You're not going to love it. Like, it's not the most interesting show, but I don't know, it's an Australian original that kind of captures Australian life. For those that haven't seen it, it's on Stan in Australia. I don't know how viewable it is around the world, whether it be on like Peacock or another service around the world, but, you know, the concept of Bump is this 16-year-old girl is unexpectedly pregnant. She doesn't know that she's pregnant. She's become sick at school. They call an ambulance and she gives birth, not knowing that she was ever pregnant at all. The series then follows her reflecting on who the father could be, which is only one possible person because she's only slept with one guy as a one-night stand. And then from that it builds and becomes more complex with their groups of friends, his ethnicity, her family having a divorce, her mum, you know, sleeping around a bit, and mum also working at the school. It just has a good... it's a bit of a far-fetched dynamic, but it tries to capture what Australian life could be like, or what could happen to an everyday family. Like, these aren't absurd things to happen, but they could. The first season was really enjoyable as a new concept. The second season, which I've been watching and we binge watched over about 3 or 4 nights, because there's about 10 episodes at 20 to 25 minutes each, so it's quite easy to get through it. The second season kind of focuses more on what it's like to be a teenage mother. And school life's not easy. Getting a job is not an option. Wanting to get internships, because this female's quite smart and she wants to be the Prime Minister. Nowhere wants to take her on because she's a mother. So I think that's what the show really is about, showing how hard life can be being a mother, and particularly being a young mother. But I don't know, it's got some weird concepts, and I don't quite know what it wants, but I think that's its main message. It's got, I wouldn't say an all-star cast of Australian actors. There's only 2 that are known. The rest are probably in their acting debut because they're quite young. But it follows young love, but I don't know. I don't think it appeals for an international audience.
Seems very Australian from snippets that I got.
It is, and I don't know if it's got the legs to have season 3. Season 2 ended in a way where it could have a season 3, and it probably will, because I think it's fairly low budget and easy to make. But it's just one of those shows where if it didn't continue on, you wouldn't miss it. But if it does continue on, those that have watched it will continue to watch it just because you want to find out, really. That's one of the main things I've been watching. What about yourself? Let's move on. What's something you've watched this week?
Very much anticipated show for me and many other Star Wars fans, and that's the book of Boba Fett. Didn't watch the first episode straight away because I thought it was a very short episode, so I waited, and then watched the second episode, and it was very much, I think, from how The Mandalorian was at the point of 1 to 2 episodes, I think it's a lot better than The Mandalorian. I think the concept and the character and the world building and the possibilities where it could go is a lot better than The Mandalorian, and I've been really enjoying the flashbacks and seeing how Boba Fett is the person he is compared to how The Mandalorian is, and I think it's going to be a better show than The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think I'm going to definitely give this a watch. The Mandalorian, it just didn't sit right with me. I admit I only watched 2 episodes the first season, but I just think I missed the boat now. I didn't enjoy it when it first came out, and I don't think I'm going to go back and watch it. But I think the Book of Boba Fett, I'm going to give it a go. I think it links in more with characters that I resonate from in the Star Wars universe. So I think I'm going to give that more likely a watch. So you've seen 2 episodes of that so far?
Yeah.
And another one's, like a week, just under a week away?
Yeah.
Travelling all right so far?
Yeah, I think it's very good.
Yeah, it's did it start off fast, or did it have a slow build like The Mandalorian has?
It had a slow start to get you into the world, and nothing wrong with that. There's been a lot of feedback and a lot of disconnect with the audience that they're not enjoying it, but I think sometimes you need that slow start, and then, better slow start than a fast start and not ending well. So we'll see how it goes.
And sweet, was the first episode shorter than the second one?
Yes.
By a fair amount, or like all around the 30-minute mark each? Or?
The first episode was 38 minutes and probably around credits, and second episode was around 45 minutes.
Do you reckon they're all going to be longer episodes now?
Hopefully, yeah.
It's an interesting thing, this idea of shows having like different lengths for their pilot episode. Like usually a pilot episode is going to be long because it's the one that's going to try and sell the show. But I guess something like the Book of Boba Fett, Disney Plus don't need to sell it. It's their own concept. To go a short episode in the beginning, maybe it's to give people a taste so they don't get bored, or yeah, it's an interesting idea. Another show that I've been watching was Cobra Kai. So that came out on New Year's Eve.
And did it live up to the hype of the previous seasons? Are you happy with it compared to the other seasons? Because I've heard from the other reviewers is that there's just too much in there. They bring in a lot of other characters back, a lot of new characters. There's just too much going on.
No, I don't think they bring in too many characters. There's only one real... okay, there's probably 2 characters get introduced. One, at the end of season 3, it's kind of implied that John Kreese is going to call up an old friend of his who was someone that was in the movies. So that comes to fruition, that he returns, which is expected, Him as a character, I don't want to give it away what happens because I know you haven't seen it yet, but they have an interesting dynamic of how they play it. He comes across as a good guy that's got his life together and doesn't want to involve himself in these karate feuds, and he's above that. He doesn't need that stress in his life anymore, to eventually becoming over the top invested in becoming the villain. And I just thought it was a weird change. And then they try and make out like the villain that's been the bad guy all along, John Kreese, is kind of like a changed man and becomes the good guy. It's like a very different twist, and the season does end on a cliffhanger. There's a 5th season obviously coming out, and I think it will be good. If I was to compare it to the previous seasons, it's not the strongest.
So it doesn't live up to the hype of... you assume that the 2 Deal Joes versing the two masters kind of having a fight against each other?
I don't. It's not that it doesn't live up to it. I think shows have to have some kind of plateau in the middle somewhere. You know what? Season 1 was just amazing. Like, new concept. Wow, where did this come from? Season 2 builds and finishes on a big cliffhanger. Season 3 builds again. So season 4, I don't think it had the room to build again. I think they had to have a plateau of a season. So it's not a bad season. It just didn't have the intensity of the others. They kind of moved away from in the previous season it was like the different dojos of kids were beating the hell out of each other and destroying properties. It really moved away from that. They were, in this season, had committed that they weren't going to fight into the karate championships, and they honoured that in this show. So we didn't get the crazy fight scenes like we did in a school. We had some flashbacks which were fine. The hope that Johnny Lawrence and Daniel would become mates was, it was never going to happen. Last season ended on that. This season they do collaborate and work together, but they still have the banter between each other. It's just they cannot put aside. Like, one of the things that happens in the season is they still can't work out who was the better fighter. Like, Johnny is still adamant that Daniel had cheated when he knocked him out and won the championship, and he's like, I want a rematch because I want to prove that I'm the better fighter than you. And it's like they still have that ongoing battle, and I think they need that. I think if they became best mates, people would think that the show's softened. So it was exciting. It just plays this mind game of who is the villain and who isn't, which is the concept of Cobra Kai, really, that Johnny was portrayed as the villain in the show and he's the hero of the villain of the show but the hero of the movies. Sorry, the reverse. The villains of the movies, but he's the hero of this show, and you want him to win. So it very much plays that. The kids swap between dojos, and you know that one kid, even though he's allegiance with Cobra Kai, but he's actually a good kid, but he's just going there, and it really wants to play on that. So season 5, I don't know where it'll go. Right at the end, we get introduced to another character that's going to come back, but they're not a new character. They've already been in the show, but I think they're just going to become more important the next season.
Do you feel like the story has much ground to continue further, or do you feel like season 5 will be the final season?
I think it can keep going. It did introduce new, younger characters in this season to try and, when the main characters kind of phase out and might go to college, they have set it up with the younger generation. So they added in a very likeable character that had been bullied, but from being a bullied, joining Cobra Kai, he then himself becomes basically pure evil, and he's, I think, going to be the villain moving forward. But it's sad because you know that he has a good heart. He just got bullied in that way. And of course, they set it up that his villain is going to be... his enemy is Daniel's son. So, they can now... The next season could possibly follow their rivalry. So it's got some cool concepts there. Good season, I'd give it a good rating. Like a 4 out of 5, but not the best. Season 1 was outstanding. It's hard to go past the season 1 of that series. What's something else you've been watching this week?
Started watching The Witcher season 2 as well, and I think it's a lot better than season 1. The problem with season 1 is that there was so many timelines, what was going on with it. With season 2, it's just one connected narrative. People are at different locations, but you kind of know what's going on. There's political intrigue. I think it's a lot better quality show now, but the reason why they did that in season 1 is because the book, the first book, the material was like that, so I think it's better that now we went through that. That's
you finished the full season too?
I'm up to episode 4 again.
Okay, and how many episodes you got of that?
There's 8 all up, so I'm currently kind of halfway, and I've kind of noticed a trend in each episode so far. Basically, we get plot, we get stuff like that, and then we kind of get like Geralt fighting like a creature in each episode.
Yeah, The Witch is a show that I've been recommended by most people, and I haven't taken the plunge to watch yet. Supernatural, medieval kind of themes are not my favourite, and that's maybe why I'm a bit hesitant. Is it kind of like a Game of Thrones vibe in a way? Because and I think that's what off puts me. But Henry Cavill as an actor makes me intrigued to watch it. I've never played the games. If I played the games, maybe I'd have more interest in it.
Yeah, I do feel like I'm messing some like Easter eggs or some things with the lore because I haven't played the games or read the books, so yeah.
Is there any other shows you reckon, like games that could be turned into shows that would do well? I believe there's like the Master Chief is getting a movie or a show soon.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know how that will be, but it'd probably be decent.
I think Assassin's Creed would make a good show. I know it got a movie, but I just think it would make a good show. Like the 2 timelines, you could have like a,
Did you ever see the movie?
Yeah.
I watched maybe half of it and just didn't enjoy it at all. I know it wasn't well received. Yeah, I think that could have a decent show. It is a very cool concept as well. So it's sad that they didn't get the movie quite right. What did they not get right about the movie? Because I didn't finish it, so I don't know how it ended or...
Oh, it just didn't feel like the games as much, and I don't know, it just wasn't... They didn't make it as interesting or as cool as the games.
Well, what else? We know that the Uncharted are getting a movie. We've reacted to that trailer. It looks like a lot of fun, but it doesn't look accurate to the games.
No.
So that could be a good or a bad thing, because maybe it's not going to disrespect the games, and we're not going to be watching it going, oh, that's not what happened, because it's not meant to be the same. Other games that would do well as shows. I would like to see The Last of Us get a show or a movie, which it was rumoured or is or has. Or
it is getting shown.
It is getting a show. Is that... I think you told me, is this an Amazon thing, was it? Or
HBO, yeah.
HBO. Do you know anything about the cast or?
Parsix Arkham is cast as Joel.
Okay, because that would be good, because I really do like those games, and the games don't fully explain why there's the zombie outbreak. It does a bit, but I'd like to know more. I think the show might focus on that. Which would be cool, and it would add to the games. Any other games you think would make a good show?
Maybe like Gears of War or something.
Okay.
I believe you saw Ghostbusters Afterlife in the movies. Do you think it was worth making?
I think so. I think it opens up a new generation to Ghostbusters. It was very filled with children when I went to see it, and they seemed to enjoy it. The main characters were young kids. One was meant to be 12 and the other was meant to be 16, 15 or something. They may have been older than that though. Actors tend to play younger ages. So I think it was aiming at that. You said there was some cut scenes. I didn't stay around for them.
Yeah.
So it might imply that there's going to be future movies. The movie was fun. It brought some nostalgia to it. I only have seen Ghostbusters 1, so 2, the second, I believe there's 2. I don't know what happens in that. But it was, it was enjoyable. You didn't have to have seen them. It would explain the weapons and the things they use to capture the ghost better, but you don't need to know. Paul Rudd plays a cool character. He's a summer school teacher. And the main female, like the young girl, she's a bit of an outcast and moved to this new town because their grandfather's passed away. And she struggles to make friends, and everyone thinks she's awkward, but she connects with Paul Rudd's character because he's a scientist as well, and she's very much a scientist. So they connect on that level, and then he coincidentally finds their mother attractive, and she's single, and she's amazed that anyone can get along with her daughter because she thinks she's a bit of an outcast, but she's not an outcast, she's a scientist, and they make that a big part of the film, that when she actually defeats the ghost, and Mum's like, yeah, you're a badass. Like, I thought you were this little quiet girl that I wanted to, like, I wish she'd just get in trouble for once. But she's like, you're a badass. She's like, no, I'm a scientist. Like, science is cool. So it was cool. The concept, very, very far-fetched. I don't quite understand the idea of ghost in the Ghostbusters universe. You've got some ghosts that look like people, and then you've got some that look like marshmallows, and then others that are like demons. I don't know what that's about, why they have so many variations of ghost. But it was fun. That's the best way to describe it, fun. You could criticize bits of it, but there's no point. You could just watch it and say, that was 2 hours of my time that I was thrilled whilst watching it, enjoyed what happened.
So you feel like it was a worthy sequel and reboot for new people to get to the franchise?
I think it did a better job than the Ghostbusters remake with the female cast, only because this isn't really a reboot. It's just, it's a follow-on. It's another part of the universe, with the main characters returning. It still follows on from that universe where I believe in the female one, the male Ghostbusters didn't exist. They were like the first to do it. Like, supposedly they pretend as though the male Ghostbusters never happened.
Yeah, they still appear in the movie, but they're like different characters.
Yeah, so yeah, I admit I didn't mind that movie either. But this was, I think it did a better job, and it opens up more possibilities. I did enjoy it. I think it's worth going to watch. I think most people that have seen it have got good things to say about it. It's not award-winning, but it was, it doesn't hurt to just watch 2 hours of something, zone out, and just enjoy it for what it is.
Well, speaking about reboots or sequel, I saw the fourth Matrix movie, and to be honest, it was good enough to watch the movie, but I feel like it's not. It didn't justify existing, if that kind of makes sense. It's the sort of problem, like, from the sounds of Ghostbusters, it brings some new life to the franchise. I feel like the fourth Matrix, the problem is that they didn't do anything new to the franchise. They kind of just brought the characters back and explained why they didn't pass away.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the Matrix, which is a bit disappointing because I know it is kind of one of those classical franchises that most people have seen. But I've heard the same response, that it wasn't up to expectation and probably didn't need to exist. Maybe it was kind of a money grab, because I knew that people were going to go out and watch it the time of year they brought it out. So a bit of a money grab. Keanu Reeves actually gave away his money he made from this movie. He decided to pay it to like the CGI staff or other people that were on set, because one, he's like that. He's just known as the most generous guy around. But
yeah,
obviously it goes to show that he didn't agree to this movie as a money grab, because he gave the money away. He obviously just did it because someone had said, we really want to do this, and he goes, oh, well, you know what, you need me, I'm the main character, I'll do it, but I'm not doing it for the money, and if you want to pay me, I'll give it away.
Yeah. Like, I feel like the movie's good, but it just... I feel like if the movie never came out, it would be perfectly fine, and that's the main problem with it. Like, it's a fine movie, but it doesn't do anything that justifies its existence. That's the main problem I had when I left the cinema. Like, it's fine CGI, it's fine everything, but it's like with the story, it's basically something happens that allows the plot to continue, and it seems a bit ridiculous.
I must say, even having not seen the other movies, when I saw the trailer, I was impressed for the first little bit. I was like, oh, this is going to be a really cool movie, even though I don't know what's going on. But then even by the end of the trailer, I was like, this looks really done.
Mm.
And I feel like maybe the movie had the same thing. It probably captured some nostalgia in this cool concept of bringing the Matrix back to life, but then missed the boat a little bit.
Yeah.
It was just done for the sake of doing it. Which I feel like is something maybe Cobra Kai runs the risk of doing.
Yeah.
If they go too many seasons, it will ruin the cool reboot they brought back. What else have I been watching? I actually, for once, got to watch a lot of things recently. I'm kind of between moving houses, so I haven't had much to do. So, like, I've been kind of sitting around and watching more stuff and packing at the same time.
Nothing wrong with that.
So, I started watching a new show called The Righteous Gemstones.
Okay.
So this features John Goodman, Adam Devine, not Demant. Demant's his character who plays in Workaholics, which is where I know him from. It's one of my favourite shows. And I believe it's written, produced by Danny McBride, who's also features in it. Have you heard anything about this show before?
No, what streaming service?
So it's on Binge. So I think it's like a HBO Max show in America. I believe there's 2 seasons already out, but there's only 1 season on Binge so far. But the concept is the Righteous Gemstones. They're a family. Their last name's the Gemstones. They are like a religious family that own a whole bunch of churches and do like online like sermons, and when they do their services on a weekend, they do it in like stadiums. Like people come to watch them because they're like the best like priests around. But they're very much about their money. You know, they are so rich. They live in this crazy like nature reserve thing they've got their own zoo and theme park, and they've each got their own houses that are on this big estate, and they have matching cars, and they have 3 private jets, and they're just so rich. And it kind of shows that they put on these church things every weekend, and they have the collection plates go around and get their donations at the end. They have this big team of people underground counting the money because they make that much money. And I think the idea is that they believe that God wants them to be rich.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of, the first episode was long. It was an hour, but every episode after that's about 20 minutes.
Okay.
So I'm watching the first episode, I'm going, this isn't really that interesting. I'm getting an idea of what's going on, but like nothing exciting. And then at the end it finishes with like something suspicious happening. Like someone tries to blackmail one of the main characters, and then you can tell, okay, it's going to get interesting.
Is it a comedy or drama?
It's kind of both. You know, it is a comedy drama. Like there's a lot. Danny McBride is definitely a notorious comedian and writes comedy, so it has very funny parts in it, but it has a serious drama. So
it's like Barry.
Yeah, I guess so. So Danny McBride's character basically is getting blackmailed, and he's a religious priest, but they've got evidence of him, you know, like doing something bad, like with drugs and like strippers and prostitutes. So they're trying to blackmail him and get money off him. So I'm about 3 episodes in. I don't know if they can keep carrying on that storyline, but it is funny, you know. They're an American Southern family with all this money, and they're greedy. They're greedy. Like they want to move into this small town. I don't know if it's a small town, but they've got 4 churches there, and their churches are doing really well. So because they're doing well, they decide that they want to build one of their mega churches in this town and take all their followers to go to their church.
Okay.
So the people that have the smaller churches are really angry at that, so they try and retaliate, and then there's like someone gets shot, and it's like they're religious people, but they're like violent. So it's a cool concept. Whether it's accurate or could happen, I don't know. I don't know enough about the behind the scenes of a church. But
what made you choose it?
Well, because Adam Devine is in it, and he's one of my favourite actors, and he kept talking about it on a podcast. So I was like, I'll give it a watch, and yeah, it's enjoyable. I'd like to watch a few more episodes before I recommend it, but 3/4 of the way through the first episode, I thought this show's not going to be very good, but it has gotten gradually better and better. Don't know how many episodes there is. I've just clicked next and watched one after another. But I am liking it. It's got a pretty star-studded cast. Yeah, it's a good show. You been watching anything else?
Watched a show called Landscapers on Stan. Basically, it's inspired by a true story that this couple have committed or have been accused of committing a crime because the husband rings the stepmom and basically says, "Oh, you're gonna assume the worst, but I've committed a crime and me and my wife have basically moved to France so we don't get into trouble because my wife's like parents are in our have passed away because the crime was committed." So basically it's a 4-part mini-series trying to work out if they did it or not. And because they're in France, back in the 90s or 80s, there's like a warrant treaty that because in a different part of Europe, because the crime happened in England, so because they're in France, there's like something to do with the warrant that they can't arrest them in France, but because the couple's like broke, the husband can't get a job, so they basically go on a train and go to England so they can have food and stuff.
Okay, where can you watch this?
Stan, yeah.
Okay, Stan. Stan's an interesting streaming service, isn't it? I think it probably lacks the content that others have, but it does occasionally have something cool on there. I've been watching one other thing. I've been working my way through Workaholics again. I've seen this before, but I wanted to get my wife to start watching it, mainly because I've been listening to the podcast that they have out. But it's just good. It's just such a funny show. It's really out there though. Like I know it's not for everyone because it's really far out comedy, but if it's your type of comedy, then you'll just find it so funny. And there's about 7 seasons of it. It's good. It's really good. And the podcast definitely complements it because the characters basically play themselves. They slightly change their name and they loosely base it on their life, but pretty close with a lot of the things. So it's a cool show to watch. Anything else you've been watching, or that's it?
One other show instead called The Pact. Basically, the concept is that these women work at like the brewery in England, and then their boss Jack is kind of not a nice boss, inherited it from his father because the father didn't want to work there anymore, and then he didn't give a promotion to one of the women, so they have like a work party, and then basically they take him, he's drunk, so they take him out of the woods, and then something happens there, and then they basically keep silent because they think they have basically committed a crime, but just the twists and turns in the show, and then it ends up being a different crime than what they thought it would be, and then it was a really good show.
And how much of this have you watched?
Finished it, yeah.
Okay, and is it like a 1-season show?
Yeah.
Limited series? How many episodes was there?
6.
Okay. What kind of like rating would you give this?
Maybe like a 3 or 3.5.
Okay, so it's kind of like an average in the middle show.
Yeah, it was good.
On that, how do you work out what order you're going to watch shows? Like
order?
Yeah, because we've watched quite a few things this week. How do you choose when to watch what? Is it different nights of the week, or when you're with different people, or what you're in the mood for?
Well, I prioritise what Mum feels like watching, so it depends what happens with that. Or if I know I have to watch a show by myself. So, for example, The Witcher, I know Mum wouldn't like that. So I go, I feel like watching The Witcher. So it's prioritising what you feel like watching. And I know, we all have different tastes. So it's kind of, and kind of been prioritising Stan lately, because it's kind of good to focus and watch different streaming services, because if you neglect all of them and just focus, it's kind of not good, and you're paying the money. So yeah, I guess kind of prioritize what you want to watch.
Yeah, I try and, like, if a show comes out weekly, that makes it really easy because you just watch it when it comes out, like that day or within the few days after. So I generally have a show that's coming out, on a weekly basis. At the moment, the Book of Boba Fett's the only one that I'm considering watching that does that, but we just finished Hawkeye, which did that. And then I like to have maybe like a serious show that my wife and I can watch together, but then I like to have like a comedy that can break it up. So at the moment, we might watch one episode of the Righteous Gemstones and then watch 2 episodes of Workaholics in a night. So try and like break it up with something funny. Even though they both kind of are comedies, Workaholics is definitely a comedy that doesn't require much attention because it's just purely for laughs. So that's how I try and do it. I find it overwhelming if there's to watch too many shows at the same time that have serious, plots. Like I don't think I could watch Ozarks and Breaking Bad at the same time. I think that would be too hard to try and watch them and know where's where.
Anything that you're looking forward to for next week or in the future?
Yeah, I think next week I'll continue to work through the Gemstones. I'd like to try and watch the first 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, and I'll continue to watch an episode or 2 of Workaholics each night. Nothing else really new that I think I'm going to introduce into my schedule for the following week. What about you?
Definitely Cobra Kai and Ghostbusters.
There's no real other movies I'm that interested in seeing. I'm not against seeing The Kingsman, but I don't know if I want to go to the movies and see it. Maybe I might wait for that.
Well, thank you for helping, Luke. Hope you like this new style of video that we tried. Thinking of doing a podcast with it. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.